Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Back for another conversation. I'm so excited. We have Ruth with us, and she's in her classroom. So, this will be great. Her students are listening. As always, if you would like, you can drop your location in the chat. It's just cool to see where people are tuning in from. I'm Polly. I'm the founder of Black Women Photographers, and we are in for a treat. So, Ruth, why don't you get started and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Well, let's see. I got started in photography by a friend, actually a coworker that was a friend, and was like, Ruth, can you shoot my cousin's wedding? And I was like, well, yeah, I've studied television and film and, have an MFA in television production. And so to me, videography is also about telling a story, and photography also is about telling a story. So I said, sure. And what I found out is that I loved it. And so I kept shooting and enjoyed really just experiencing those emotions, with the bride being nervous and then the groom, he's nervous, or running around and the families and this just there's so much going on. And I just love that I was like, I behind the lens, right? And I'm just capturing those moments for the family and for generations, right? So that's how I got started in photography. Yeah, I think
And,
that's
and what do you mainly capture now?
so now the project now that I'm working on is an Afro-Mexican project. I went down to Mexico about 2 years ago, and I teach high school. So I teach film and television. I also teach digital photography. I've taught graphic design. And so they cut my program years ago. And so I was like, okay, what am I doing with my life? Let me go to Mexico and find myself. So I went down to Mexico City. I met some really cool friends, and they were like, Ruth, as we were talking, I remember reading a story on they were basically trying to take account of Afro-Mexicans, like basically include them in the census. So I was like, what is this? And the more I started to research, the more I was like, wow, this is such an unknown community, and how cool would it be to travel where they are. And what's crazy was it was less than a week. I met this girl named Ashley. She's like, I'm going to Oaxaca. I was like, what? In Oaxaca, there's this, Afro-Mexican town called Chicagua. Yeah, and she was like, I'm going to Chicagua. And I was like, what? Let's go, bet, so I packed my stuff. I got on a flight and I, went down there with her. And it was like an hour and 30 from Puerto Escondido, the drive. And then we had to take a river like boat, right? For like another hour and a half. And then we got to this community, and I swear it looked like Africa. I went to Ghana in 2004 to study abroad with Loyola Marymount University and with Dr. Cheryl Grills. And I studied African religion and spirituality, and it was beautiful. But I just basically created a video promo because I so was not in the psychology program. But I basically conned my way on the trip. Like, how can I go on this trip to Africa? And she was like, well, create a trailer. I was like, yes, thank you. So I went down there and documented that. But I say all that to say, when I got there to Chicagua, the first thing someone said to me was, welcome home. Bienvenidos a tu casa. Soy negra como tú. I was like, what? Like, oh, this is my people. We just don't speak the same language, right? And I was inspired by this beautiful 16-year-old named Yahaira. And she was gorgeous. And she was like, you think I'm gorgeous? And we're having this conversation in Spanish. And I'm like, yes, I'd love to document you. I'll pay you. And she was like, okay. And I was like, well, how do you feel about not being represented or seeing yourself, on telenovelas, soap operas, on TV and movies, on billboards in stores? And she was like, yeah, there's something wrong with that, because a lot of Mexicans have darker melanin and darker skin. So why aren't we seeing that in advertisements and marketing campaigns? So I was like, well, why don't I do that? Why don't I create the images that I want to see of them and help make them feel good about being in front of the camera and bringing light to this community. And they were just included in the census in 2020. So Mexico as a country just acknowledged their Afro-Mexican population. We're talking last year.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I mean, there's so many things I want to ask now, but I guess like this is something you did 2 years ago, but it's still ongoing, right?
Yes. And so the project that I just worked on for the Sony Alpha Female Grant that I won last year, it was like it was like October. They literally, you win the grant and then they're like, all right, here's this money, finish your project. And you literally have a month to turn the project around. And so what I did is I looked at who was who on Mexican pesos, like who's, on the national currency of the country, and how can I basically make them Afro-Mexican so that we can create this discussion. Now, Jose Maria Morelos, one of my characters, he was actually Afro-Mexican, but of course Frida Kahlo was not, but I made her Afro-Mexican just to create this conversation, and that they were, very much a part of the revolution and Mexico gaining their independence. You got Emilio Zapata, who was Afro-Mexican, which I also recreated. So I'm working on, I say all that to say that was the project that I finished for Sony, but I want to create I'm actually casting children, young children of Afro-Mexicans, that basically we are who we are because of you. So somos nosotros. I think it was somos nosotros por tú, or something like that, or something, basically, because of you, we are who we are. Basically, that's the campaign. So I want to do it with younger children to educate kids on these historical figures. So I want to do 12, and I want the project to not just end with Afro-Mexicans, but to continue throughout each Afro-Latino culture, and just highlighting that culture, but also educating people on these historic figures that very much contributed to that country and that society.
That sounds amazing. There is a quick follow-up question regarding the last project you were mentioning that you won the Sony Alpha Female Grant for. Simi asks, when you say acknowledge, do you mean that they were a separate group, or did they never count their existence within the census?
Yeah, they never were counted in the census at all. And over 2 million identified as Afro-Mexican. And when you talk to them, they'll say, soy negro, like I'm Black, but they're also Mexican. What's sad is a lot of their stories too that they share, that they're discriminated against in their own country. There are people that make them sing the Mexican national anthem, for example, to prove like, okay, that you really are Mexican. And they're like, we've been here for generations. We're talking, 1400s, right? And that Mexico was a huge slave port. So if you go to Veracruz, you'll see there's a lot of, Afro-Mexicans throughout Guerrero, Oaxaca, like all throughout that region. And there was a town named Yanga, and Yanga was a slave, and he rebelled against the Spanish and was stealing his people. And I mean, he stole so many slaves that the Spanish were like, look, we're going to give you this land, we'll give you this Palenque, your town, if you would just stop stealing people. And he was like, all right, cool. But basically he didn't stop, right? He just kept freeing people. And that community is still there. So I would like the vision is, find a Yanga, right? A baby Yanga, and, shoot this child that's Afro-Mexican in Yanga would be cool.
Now, also remaining on the same project with the Sony Alpha Female Grant, so this was your first time there. How did you build the trust to even have, these locals be a part of, your project? I mean, you mentioned like, you talked to them, you got their consent, but what did it all, entail?
I think sharing my story of who I am, and just really sharing with them the goal of what I was trying to do, and really just talk about, hey, I want to create this content and opportunity for you um, to be in front of the camera. Like an idea for my project is, I think I'll do well, like if someone that I help include in the project, connect them with a paying gig, right? That there's so many. I had two models that were signed to contracts in Mexico, but they could not get cast on a lot of gigs because they were told your skin's too dark, right? And so to really, I think that's the goal. And when I shared the vision with the people that were a part of my project, they were super excited about it. And I think they could feel that I'm not just, you have people that go to these communities and they tend to um, just take photos of people and not develop the relationship. I'm like, no, I'm not just going to take the photos. Like, I really want to make sure that the culture is known and represented. And then also, I would love to come back and give back. So it's going to be a continuation. Like, my dream is to create. I started a store to help support the project so people can like buy t-shirts, but I really want to develop backpacks. And what I would like to do is like pick, like maybe 10 and then share what their dreams were and then name the backpack after them and then give 10% and whatever I'm earning back to that model, right? To help them with their dreams. So I think I showed that I was invested in the community and in the cause and the culture.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I also have another follow-up question, but I see there was something dropped in the chat. So let me ask, this is from Mario. They're saying, this is amazing. I'm crazy inspired by this talk. How did you create the contacts/relationships with people to help you expand your project, or better yet, get it out there? I'm very interested in this similar topic area as you, especially from perspective of being a part of the Nigeria diaspora and trying to understand the transcendence of our culture to the Americas. I was wondering what are your thoughts are on telling this story? Sometimes I feel like I'm not entitled to because I'm not Afro-Latino.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm not Afro-Latino either, but I do speak the language and I do respect the culture. I think as long as you have a honest love and respect for the culture and you're upfront, right? Like, hey, I'm not Afro-Latina, right? But I really want to showcase your culture and your community in a way that's changing what the narrative is, right? And the narrative is that darker skin is not beautiful. And that was the whole purpose of my photography project, was to show that dark skin is beautiful and that in Latin culture, a lot of Afro-Latinos are not acknowledged and they're not considered Latina, right? Or Latino. So for me, I think that's a great question. I think developing the relationships, I would share my project and my ideas with everybody I met in Mexico City. And once I became clear on my vision, I just was like, I was talking to two of my friends. One went to college with me undergrad at Clark Atlanta University. And then the other one I met in Mexico City through this College Connect. And so we were talking and overlooking Bellas Artes. If you haven't been to Mexico City, you have to go. It's beautiful. And the people there were so friendly and the food was so good. I can't wait to go back. But we were just there eating and I had this hot cocoa and I'm just overlooking Mexico and we're having this discussion and they're like, Ruth, you're so passionate about it. Like, go shoot it. Like, why are we still talking about it? And so I think when you have the idea, get it out on paper and then just start talking to people that are supportive, that have a good vibe and a good energy about your project, even if they don't, right? Just find the people that do and that are going to support you and connect you with people. It just my project was like, it just took a life of its own, literally. We talked about it, it was an idea. My friends encouraged me to go shoot it. And then literally this Ashley shows up and like, hey, I'm going to Oaxaca. It just kept, progressing. And I had people keep tagging me in the Sony Alpha Female grant. And I was like, wow, what is this? What's a Sony Alpha Female? And I just started to research that. And then I applied for the grant and I won. And I was like, oh snap, I won, right? So it's like, I'm on the right path, just keep plugging away, you know? So I think just developing the relationships, talking to people, um, you know, informing yourself as much about the culture as you can. Like, I love history. So for me, research is just like my go-to. I love learning about different cultures. So I just think the more you learn and the more that you can share, like I know through my project, I was educating some people. Sorry, you guys, that's my bell. I'm gonna, bye guys, have a good day. And then my next class will come in. And so be quiet. So anyway, I just feel like once you are connecting with people, I think that you'll find the right people, you know, and your project, people will want to be a part of your project and people will want, what I was finding out is like there was this one girl that just really believed in what I was doing. And uh-oh, sorry guys. Oh, should I mute? Okay. One of the girls that was a part of my project, she really loved what I was doing and she helped connect me to other models and like, so it just kept growing. So I guess my advice would be just keep sharing your project ideas and keep learning as much as you can about the culture, and those connections will naturally happen, you know?
No, that makes total sense. And they said thank you. It was immensely helpful. And for those who missed it, Ruth is a teacher by day. And so she's sharing this presentation with her class, her students. So you may hear some bells, but it's totally fine. I love it personally. And so let's talk more about this project. So you had the vision, you made that clear goals for yourself, and then you know, communicated that vision to people who you wanted to be a part of that. Then how did you, you know, go about with it, actually bringing it to life? You know, you said go out there and start shooting. How much of that were you shooting before you even applied, you know, for the grant? I feel like oftentimes photographers, creatives, whoever, we feel like we may not have enough yet, enough materials to apply. Like this is something that we just started, maybe it was like a month ago, maybe it was a year ago. Like, how did you know you were ready to actually submit materials for that application?
That's such a great question, Polly. Thank you. I didn't. I didn't know I was ready. I felt like that. I felt like, oh gosh, I don't think I have enough content. But I did, you know, you just, I mean, they only asked to see like 3 of your shots, you know, like your money shots. And I was like, ooh, that's hard because at that time I had shot with maybe close to 20 different models. And I was like, how do I pick 3 money shots from that? And then I even, you know, I executed the Afro Frida concept before I even won the Sony grant. And I, for the first time, added extensions to my model's hair. I did her makeup. Sorry, you're going to hear the bell. Stand by. I'm going to let my other class in really quickly.
Yes,
And
of course.
right back.
While she steps out, if you have any questions, as always, feel free to drop them in the chat. And I dropped the link to the press release announcement about the winning project that she had for the Sony Afro Female Grant.
I'm sorry, guys, I'm back. Okay, so yeah, just back to I had to pick 3 out of 20 photos. I felt like I didn't have enough content. What I would say is just go for it. If you have an idea, and the crazy thing is, because I was like, once I had finished shooting the 20 models, I was like, okay, now what, right? How do I pitch this to brands? That was my, you know, next thought, because the idea was like, wow, if I can get them cast for like a product, like let's say a Jarritos brand. I looked at brands that were, you know, made in Mexico. And then how can I create these commercial images for these different brands? And so I was trying to do that. But then I was like, okay, the historical part of me and how I love history, I was like, how can I incorporate that? So I was like, who's on Mexican money? Who's on the currency? And that's how I came up with that idea. And I was like, why don't I pitch this to Sony? And how about I just pick, I think it was either 6 or 7 characters, right? That I could recreate and just make them Afro-Mexican to open this. I knew it was going to be controversial, but I was like, I could do this for every country in Latin America, really, because, we're everywhere because of the slave trade. We're all throughout the African diaspora, right? We're in Brazil, Peru, Argentina. And I was like, oh, when I get to Argentina, that's going to be a whole, you know, controversial thing because, Ava Peron, I was like, I want to make her Afro-Peruvian, even though she wasn't, but just to create this conversation of, yes, you have to acknowledge these people of color in your country and what they've contributed to your society and your country, right? So I had to really get clear on what my vision was, how I was going to pitch this to Sony. So I was like, the more specific I can be, the better. And I think that comes from my TV video production background. When you have, an idea, you have to write it down and then you have to like really build upon that. So the pre-production, right? What does that look like? I broke down the Sony, how many days I would shoot. I said I would do a 2-day shoot. I need a creative director. Who would I need to work with, right? A costume designer. What do my costumes look like? How many, right? So I told you I chose, I think it was 6 or 7 characters. I can't really remember. And then I was like, okay, where am I going to shoot this? What are the shooting locations? From what time to what time, right? And then how am I going to feed people? How much is that going to cost? Because really, when you win a grant, they really want to know, what are you going to do with that money, right? So I knew, okay, let me include this in my pitch, in the application, right? So I broke down the days, the shoot, what people I needed as far as like, a costume designer, makeup artist, someone to do hair, and I literally broke that down and how much I was going to pay them. I was very specific, and I think that's what really helped them see, okay, this is what she's going to do, this is how many shoots she's going to have, these are how many models she's going to have. And I was very specific on what the look and feel was, and to explain, hey, I'm bringing awareness to the fact that the 2020 census in Mexico just included Afro-Mexicans. So I think that's what Sony was like, oh, really? And I think they researched, because they did call. I got the first call and it was like, hey, tell us more about this. And it helped that I was prepared to talk about it, right? And they were like, wow, did you put your portfolio together? Because we don't see. And I was like, oh, there's a link. And they missed the link. And I was like, oh yeah, I sure did. I included that on a YouTube link, right? Of the photos that I shot, all of the, the 20 models, just so they could see the variety of my work and see that, okay, she's pretty consistent with this look and feel of what she's doing. And I think that helped them like really make their decision, like, okay, you won, we're going with you. And you have a month now to to do this extension of your project and your vision.
That is like, I'm gonna keep saying amazing over and over again. But I mean, I really just love how you just like simplified it and break it down by that. Because I just feel like always it's so easy to get overwhelmed. But when you break it down, just like, okay, actual shooting time, where, who, what, when, why, even makeup, even the details of even feeding the people, a part of the set, the set days. I think that is just so important. And so you received the call that you won. How did you actually make it happen within that month?
Oh goodness. So I had to book a hotel room. I knew that I was going to partner with Kennedy Johnson, who she's amazing. She has her own African clothing brand and her own makeup line. And I was like, okay, how can I partner with her and bring her on? And she was in Arizona. So she's like, oh, I'll just drive, and I shared her project with me, I'm like, hey, I got, 400 for you, just be straight up, hey, what do you have? And people, when they believe in you and believe what you're trying to do, they'll just come along. And so she came down and helped with wardrobe. And of course, we were communicating looks. And what I did is I went on Canva. If you guys aren't familiar with Canva, it's Canva. I'll put in the chat.com. And it's such a great free way to organize your photo shoots, like for just it makes it look like you hired a graphic designer and you did, right? So for each, uh, oh, sorry, you're gonna hear a bell again. Lexi, close the door, please. Thanks. Uh-oh, we have announcements really quickly, and I will be right back. I'm gonna mute this.
No problem. As always, feel free to continue dropping questions in. I see a few good ones. We have about 30 minutes left of our conversation with Ruth, and I'll drop in the chat one more time the link about her project that she's explaining.
Okay, they're still going. Sorry, guys. Oh, oh no.
You did not miss that question, Mario. I'm definitely going to ask because I don't know how she teaches by day and does this as well. So don't worry. That's going to be a question I will ask.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I'm so sorry I'm back. Announcements are done. I'm all
No
yours.
worries, no worries. We are impressed by your balancing act.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I think I'll let you continue your answer before I ask another question.
Okay. So, oh yeah. So once I brought Kennedy on, I just knew it was going to be a weekend. And then I shortened, instead of 2 days, I said, you know what, well, I can just knock this out in one day. So what I did is I just booked a hotel. And then I had my makeup artist show up. I had made sure I provided craft service for my models when they got there. I had little gifts for them. It's just a different way to set myself apart from other people. I've been to sets before and nobody kind of does anything special sometimes for the models. So what I did is I created little gift bags for the models. And it had like all of like these, like Mexican snacks, brands that were made in Mexico. I provided that for each model. And just to say thank you so much, and then to include their pay and with a card, just I think it's in the details. But then I also gave them a little bit of education on who they were portraying that day so they could give me that energy right in front of the camera, because I was shooting photos and videography. So I needed, like, for instance, Sora Wana, the real one was, a feminist, and she was a nun, and she was born of a wealthy father, but out of wedlocks. And so they hid her in a nunnery, but she was told by priests she shouldn't be able, to read and write. Like, who do you think you are? You're a woman, right? And she was like, who am I not to be, right? A woman, and I am gonna write. And matter of fact, I mean, priests tried to publish her work as if it was their own because she wrote so well and she just had this high IQ. And so I needed my model to understand that she was only 16, but she was like, oh, wow. So I was like, you're kind of like, you're a badass, like you were ahead of your time. So I need you to come across really like fierce in your photos and strong. Um, my Afro Frida Kahlo, she knew about Frida Kahlo, but she didn't know like that Frida Kahlo had an affair with Josephine Baker. That although she was married to Diego, she was very much bisexual back then. And that, back then for her to be so bold in her art and who she was and just very unapologetic, although her husband had many affairs, so did she, right? Like, and he still respected her. So I was, just kind of giving them that so they can kind of have that pride and kind of be that character that I needed them to be. And I think it's hard to try to recreate historic figures, but I say, you kind of want to speak to who they were, but then take your little twist on it. Um, and so I just made sure my sheet was organized from start to finish, just, and just share that with the whole crew. Like everybody had contact information, like a call sheet. I basically ran it like it was a production, right? Everybody had a call sheet with everyone's contact information. Every model was very well versed on who they were supposed to be and portray for me on camera. I had went out ahead of time and scouted locations. There was some locations that I really wanted that I couldn't get because COVID happened. And it was just like stuff wasn't open. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to change my venue. But just being able to be flexible, and I think planning ahead will save you that time. So when things don't necessarily work out, you're not like, oh, or I can't. And there's always going to be something that goes wrong. But just kind of know that and just kind of just keep moving with it, right? Just going with the flow and just not getting bummed out. I would just make adjustments. Some things didn't come on time for wardrobe. So I just had to do the best I could with what I had and try to make it look as good as possible. And I just wanted to make sure people had a good time too, right? So, and at the end, I ended up taking Kennedy, who was a huge part of just the behind the scenes. I took her to a nice dinner, right, to thank her for just her time and support. So, yeah, I hope I answered that question.
No, you did. And I guess a follow-up is like, how much of it did you share publicly? Did you post any snippets? Did you post at all when you were doing your project, or did you wait to try to get that funding secure before you shared it with, the world?
Absolutely. When you win a Sony grant, they kind of, you have to not publish anything until they approve the project. So what I had to do after I did the photo shoot, I saved the photos. Well, I didn't save them. I had to pick like, and that was the hard thing for each model, like picking 3 to 5 photos. So I sent like no more than 10 for each. And then I edited like with a vintage kind of look where the photos were kind of less saturated. So it kind of looked older. And then I did a black and white. And then I also did like a oversaturated, right, with the pop of color. So it looked kind of modern. And I let them choose because I couldn't choose which way I wanted to go, artistically. And they ended up choosing the black and whites and to publish. Once they published my work on the site, I was able to post on my social media. And so I did share that. And then I shared some of the ones in color on like my Instagram, the Ruth Hickman photography Instagram. I posted some of those that are in color. But it was, yeah, you have to follow the rules when you're working with a brand like Sony. Whatever they say, you're like, all right,
Right. I mean, for the funding, I will follow the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, did you ever, with this project, did you ever resubmit it for other grant opportunities, or are you okay with leaving this as is?
So no, the answer is no, but I
Mhm.
want to. I put together a list of different grants. I'm always welcome. So if y'all know grants that you think I should
Yes.
apply for, please share with me. And I definitely want to share the project with more people, and I would love to win another grant to help finish the project, because I feel like the children's part and looking for the 12 models and the costumes and all that, I'm still gonna need some funding. So yes, I need to apply for more grants, and I would love to do, a dream of mine is to be in MULA, like the Museum of Latin Art. Um, and they did do an exhibit on Afro Latinos. And so, and I went down there because they're in Long Beach. So I went over there and got the business cards for who's in charge of curating and all of that. And so I just need to send them an email. And so I'm working on that, guys. I just started teaching at another high school, a new high school. And so this has just been a lot for me, but I'm trying not to get consumed by
Mhm.
education, because I feel like we're disposable as teachers sometimes, especially in the arts, and our programs sometimes are the first to get cut. And so I like to focus on, I give my kids all of me from 8 to 3:30, 200%. And then after 3:30, I've got to give that energy to my projects. But I definitely need to pick back up. So I've been kind of like, it's been on pause, and I need to unpause it so I can keep this momentum going.
No, I mean, I think you said a lot of wise things. And I mean, I see people clapping for you. And you answered Mario's question, during the day, with your full-time job, you give it your all. And then afterwards, you put that same energy back into yourself and your projects. And I think it's hard. We're still in a pandemic. I mean, honestly, it's just like hard. Like for me, I'm just trying to be better at being kinder to myself because we can't do it all. And if you're tired, it's okay, but don't worry. I'm gonna follow up because sometimes you just need an accountability partner. Because I have people who put me on check for even like drinking water and things like that. So I will follow up with you with some grants that I came across and also be like, hey, did you send that email yet?
Yes.
So don't worry. There's a question in the chat from Shanita. They say, Ruth, you are so dope. Thank you for being here. I have a few projects that I created and shot from Vietnam, Thailand, Mexico, and Colombia, but I never knew how to move forward with them. They were all also shot from 2015 to 2019. Do you think it is too late to do anything with them?
Absolutely not, because I feel like, photos are timeless, right? As well as priceless. So I think, like, I think you just need to decide, what do you want to do with them? Where do you want to go? Like, are they for tourism? Are they, to bring awareness to a certain culture, or just a certain, um, like, how can you, is the goal to monetize them, or is the goal to just share them? So I guess, what are you trying to do? Because I feel like there's so much that you can do with your work, and that's something I'm still struggling with. Like, how do I monetize this? And I was thinking that's why I wanted to shoot 12 children, because I feel like with 12 children, I can create a calendar, right, of this work, and share that and just renew it every year, right? And then, so I think thinking like that, like, I guess what would be the goal? And so just brainstorm, look at them. Do you think that, travel companies would love them, pitch them and share them? Um, are you, trying to get them published in certain magazines? What magazines do you want to be published in? Um, so that kind of thing. I think just really brainstorming. I think give it a look, and see, and then maybe ask someone that you trust, that has a good eye, that can kind of tell you, like, hey, these are commercial shots. You should, let's try to monetize these, or hey, you should be selling these on your website, or yeah. So asking yourself, what's the goal? Like, what do you want? What do you want to do with these photos? But definitely, I think it's not too late.
Yes, they say thank you so much for the feedback. I think I'm gonna have to ask myself some of those questions. Cleo asks, if you don't receive the grant, when you apply for these things, you will get a rejection or two or three. So how do you not get discouraged during that time when you're waiting for your yes?
Oh, I stick to the why you're doing this. And my why is because there's such a lack of diversity in advertising and marketing, especially in these Latin countries and on these Latin television shows and movies. And there's just so many stories that are untold. And so that's my why, like to bring awareness and representation to these forgotten communities or unknown communities. As I was sharing with my students, I have some students that are from the Mexican culture that had no idea that Afro-Mexicans exist. And then some of them were like, well, they're Haitians, and they're immigrants. I'm like, no, no, they've been there generations. We're talking about generations and generations since, the slave era, 1400s, and so they're like, wow, I didn't know that. So I think what's your why? Stick to what's your why through um, the hey, no, you didn't get the grant. I even applied for I don't know if you guys, it was the wine. Murphy Good had like the good job and it was $10,000 and you get paid 10,000 a month. I applied for that. Who am I? I was like, I don't really know that much about wine, right? But I was like, I'm gonna go to a winery and I'm gonna, shoot this video and I'm gonna pretend I know about wine, right? And just I fake it till you make it, right? And I didn't win, but I was so happy to see that another woman of color did win. And I was like, yes, girl, you go. But then when I looked up who she was, I mean, she was very well versed in wine, right? Like sommelier type stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, I was out of that league, right? But it didn't stop me from going after that. So I would just say, don't get discouraged by the no's because the no's can be a maybe and those maybes can turn into a yes, right? And it's maybe just timing. And I'm talking to myself as I'm talking to you
I
guys.
mean, you're preaching right now. I'm gonna take that last slide and like write it down. That's like a great like affirmation. So thank you.
Yes, yes.
um, yes, I see a lot of people saying thank you. Aspen, who's Afro-Latino, is saying that, this is so inspiring for her. She's doing a similar talk about Belizean people. So thank you all for the great comments. Regina asks, do you have any plans of doing a photo book?
I do. Once I'm complete with all of my travels, and that's what I want to do for the summer. And that's why teaching is a cool gig for me because, I only work 10 months out of the year, right? So December, I get 3 months off or 3 weeks off. So I'm like, I'm definitely traveling somewhere like, and I want to shoot wherever I go. And I want it to make sense. I want it to continue with the project. And then in the summer, I get 3 months. And so I really want to be strategic on what countries I'm going to, but I need to reach out now and develop those relationships with those, different cultures in those countries so that when I do go, I can plan it and have already models lined up for this project and costumes done and my historic figures who I'm going to recreate. And so I think it's all about planning, but I just know that this isn't my end all be all, right? I enjoy teaching, I love teaching, but I also want to also pursue my passions as well. And this project is a passion project of mine, and I would love to create 12 historic figures, recreate those, and have children represented from each Afro-Latino culture throughout Latin America, South America, and have a complete body of work. And then I can produce a book, right? A photo book. And then I can market that and sell that. I feel like that's my life's work also to create this backpack company that helps give back to different organizations that help immigration issues and bring awareness to, you know, the dreamers and why people come to this country for an opportunity. And I really want my company to help give back and have resources for, you know, those different Latino people, and just that speak to my project to help them, you know, excel in education and have opportunities. So I think that's the long-term goal. That's the long-term goal. And I just got to work on, you know, what's the next thing. And the next thing is, you know, casting and finding these models from all these different cultures. And then going out and shooting the content, right? Just getting it done and not waiting. Like I don't have to wait to go to Mexico, because I've been, you know, since I've been meeting people in the Afro-Mexican community there, I've learned that a lot of them are in California and are in LA. And so, and they want to be a part of the project. So, you know, I'm going to start there, you know, start where you are. But just stay true to your why.
I mean, such amazing work that you're doing and will do. And I'm so inspired by all of that. I mean, I was already inspired. I didn't even know half of that. So that's going to be amazing. I guess my last few questions for you. So since you do a lot of long-term projects, are there anything that you do short-term, or do you just stay focused on the long term? Do you ever feel that, you know, I guess with social media and just things like that, it's so easy to feel like, oh, I need to share something. Oh, I need to do, you know, I need to post something, but you're focused on the long-term goal. And so I guess what do you do while you're working on that, if that makes sense?
That does make sense. I think I try not to, like, because I'm running a couple different Instagrams. Like I have the Afro Latino También Instagram. That one is for the store, the online store, to help, you know, get the word out there about, you know, being, you know, hella Black, hella Latino, right? That's the products that I created to basically empower these different communities and helping to help fund this project, right? That was the original idea. And I do get down because I'm like, gosh, because I don't have enough content to post on there. And then I'm like, wait, why do I have to create the content all the time? I can share, you know, I can educate people through this Instagram too. So why don't I just post Afro Latinos? Who are they and what they're doing? And that I don't have to create the content, right? I'm just bringing awareness to who this Afro Latina is, and I'm just educating through this. If I don't have, if I don't post, I don't beat myself up, but I do kind of feel like, oh man, I'm not, you know, posting enough, right? But I do need to get some type of schedule down. I think that would help, because people follow you because they are consistent, you're consistent, right? And your platform is, you know, giving them something. So what is it? And I want people to get the knowledge and the awareness from the Afro Latino Tambien, and then the Mexican Tambien. What I started to do with that is post photos from other photographers that have also documented Afro Mexicans. And so also sharing my platform with other photographers that have done the work. So I think there's creative ways to do that. And I have been focusing on the long term. I haven't really made time to shoot. When I can, I do. I think I've been a little bit consumed with this new job, and I'm teaching at a new school. And so once I get this kind of flying and going, I got to get back to that. I love being a second shooter. I was a second shooter for Petronella, by Petronella.com. She's out of New York and New Jersey. She's another wonderful Black female photographer. And she does cultural weddings. And I learned so much from her, shooting as her second shooter on surprise marriage proposals and that kind of thing. But that's been a couple years since I've done that. And I'm like, man, I would love to get back in that, just because as a second shooter, I don't have to meet with the bride and groom. I don't have to get their story, you know, and design the wedding book. And, you know, I don't have to commit to all that because I really just don't have the time. But I would love to, you know, on a Saturday, make $500 just to just go and shoot. And get to do all those cool shots and hey, here's my SD card and deuces, I'm out, right? So I'm looking to partner with some photographers here once I'm able to get settled and move, because now I got to look for a new place to live, and so I'm in this transition. I feel like, and once I'm stable, I think that I can really focus on those gigs where I'm just still sharpening my skills and still shooting, but I'm making money and I'm not consumed by, the client really. And I can just focus on my long-term projects. But I do need to make those connections. So for me, there's a Temecula wine country, which is not far from where I live. And so that, they have weddings there all the time. So if I can just figure out who those photographers are, so I can reach out. So what I did is I reached out to Petronella by email and asked to take her to dinner. And my treat, took her to dinner and was like, hey, I'd love to be your second shooter. And I just learned so much from her. I learned that why I couldn't capture, people in low light. I didn't have the right lens. It was like those kind of things where I was like, oh, that's why I'm not getting the shot. Oh, okay, because I thought it was just me. And then at the time, my first camera was a Nikon D5000. And that camera is just so not good for audio. Like, and I was trying to do these videos, and it's great for B-roll footage or first starter camera. But I just think that I definitely need to make time to get back shooting. That's a great question, Polly. That was, I feel like,
No. I mean, thank you for your honesty throughout this conversation. It's super helpful and encouraging just to know that we can, like, I also relate, we're not alone in this. I guess my last question for you, you kind of touched on this already, but like, by doing all these things, like, how do you practice, self-care? How do you pour back into yourself while doing all of the things?
I think that's a great question. Self-care is super important. I go and get a mani pedi. Like these are my nails, y'all. I went and got them done. I feel like it makes me feel feminine. It makes me feel good. And those kind of taking baths and just kind of slowing down. I used to be that teacher that would, go home. I see so many teachers stay, they stay after school's out and they stay for hours. And then they literally just go home, cook dinner, take a shower, go to bed, and they come and do the same thing. And I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. When the bell rings at 3:30, I'm out, I'm gone. One is my commute is super long. So it's a super long commute for me right now. I'm driving about an hour and a half. I teach in Oceanside. And so that's pretty far from where I'm living now. I'm in Hemet, which is like, oh gosh, it's like ranch and cows and and it smells horrible. So I'm like, I gotta get out of there. So I'm trying to look to move closer to where I'm working. And I think that will help with my commute. And then just exercising. When I was walking, gosh, just walking. You don't even have to do like a hardcore workout. Just walk for like 2 hours. Get out and get some fresh air and just walk. And I'm telling this to y'all, I'm telling to myself again, because when I was walking, I felt so good. I felt just revived. I felt like I had more energy, even though I was tired. But once I made myself do it and just start becoming a routine of me walking, and then I looked at my diet. What am I eating? How do I feel after I'm eating certain foods? And I'm a carnivore, so I'm trying to be more of a vegetarian. It's super hard though, y'all, because yesterday I so cheated. I went out to dinner and had barbecue and had some.
Listen, as an African, I don't know what vegetarian means.
I had some good meat last night, and I enjoyed every moment of it, right? But then my stomach's bloated, and then I just feel so heavy. I feel like I eat better abroad than I eat in the U.S. I feel like we inject our animals with so many chemicals, and so what we're eating is not natural. It's not, doesn't make us feel good. It's not real food, I feel like. But, and that's the other reason why I love traveling so much, is because I eat so good abroad. and I can eat a steak abroad and my stomach not bloat, you know? It's just here. So I'm trying to really work on my diet and be conscious of what I'm eating, making sure it's colorful food and it makes me feel good. So the self-care for me would just be, you know, taking the time to get your hair done, right? You know, taking the time to go get a mani-pedi, treating yourself, because we do work hard, but you also need to play hard too, you know, enjoying life. I think in the US, we live to work here. Everywhere else, they get it, you know, working just to live, right? But we live to work here, and I refuse to do that anymore. Yeah.
I love everything that you just said. Thank you, thank you, like, yes. I mean, I always like I see those tweets all the time, like, you are not your work, you know, and all the I have to constantly remind myself that. So thank you so much. I learned a lot throughout this conversation, and I'm sure others did too. I see some reactions on Zoom. Any closing words that you may have for us? Even though I feel like that's such a great way to end it.
Oh, I really want to thank you, Polly, for this platform. I feel like it's so hard to connect with a lot of women in photography just because I'm like, where are they? And I will say I did think that, you know, when I won the Sony grant, I was gonna get a mentor. That's not how it works. You just kind of are given money to do this project, but I was really missing that and really was like, man, you know, maybe if we can, I don't know, create some type of contact sheet or list how we can just call. And I did reach out to different female photographers that weren't necessarily, I guess, warm. Do you know what I mean? Or open,
Mhm.
transparent, or
Right.
like we're not in competition here. Like you have your lane, I have my lane, and but I really do think that there's we need mentors in
Mhm.
photography. I feel like I would benefit from learning how to monetize my work, right? From someone that has done that, that is experienced. So I'm still on the lookout. If anybody's in here and can mentor me or want to be my accountability partner or whatever it is, um, feel free. Like I did have, uh, you know, a couple of female photographers reach out to me, and I'm like, oh, thank you so much. But I'm like, I need mentorship. I need someone that I can look to that really, um, you know, will help me, I guess, get paid my worth. I think that's what it is how do I make a career out of photography and it be, you know, consistent and successful. I'm still figuring that out. I feel like it's hard for photographers too, because we don't have like a set price list, you know, like every, you know, other industry, like, oh, this is going to cost this. And, you know, I guess that's, you know, up to you and your art, but I really would love, I guess, a contact or who's in San Diego and who's in LA. And then what group should we be a part of as far as, you know, membership. And I was a part of the APA, but I just felt like there was a lack of diversity in that. And I'd rather be a part of this, you know, because I see me and you and everyone else on this call. So I just want to thank you. I'm getting emotional. I just want to thank you for creating this space for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You have no idea how much that means to me. Coming from you. Thank you. Seriously. And I will be in your inbox and in your message. Like I love sending voice notes, so don't worry, you're gonna get a couple texts from me after this. And so many people are saying thank you as well. Like I mean, I feel it from here, and if I start crying, we're never gonna get off this call. um so thank you, like you have no idea how much this means. And once again, everyone, I'm going to share the link to learn more about her project, and her information also is on her personal website. Mari says, thank you both. You got me crying this morning. Oh my goodness. Ruth, thank you so much. And we'll make sure people pour back into you. We will. So I thank you again for your time, your knowledge. This was such a beautiful conversation.
Thank you guys. I love you guys so much. And I really appreciate you and your work. And, just keep believing in your project and just keep sharing it with as many people as you can. And I just feel like you'll be guided and connected, and your project will serve its purpose. I just think of something that's bigger than you, right? For your why. And yeah, just keep on and reach out, y'all. I'm here.
They're saying I need to get you into our Slack group. I will get you in our Slack group right after this.
Please do. Please put me in whatever group. I really want to connect. So
yes.
I love it. I need the community, and I feel like that's how we thrive. We're tribal people, and we are always connected no matter where I've been and throughout my travels in the diaspora. I just feel like no matter what language we speak, we're one, and we're just all connected. So thank you for this, Polly. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everyone on this call and this Zoom meeting. Thank you so much. I feel the love, and I hope you feel the love, and I support you. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you again, Ruth.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.